Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. I welcome all of you to this conference, which is happening to discuss the financial performance of the second quarter and the first half ended September 30th, 2021. With the unlocking of the economy, we have seen green shoots of progress in the economy as well as in the infrastructure sector where we operate. However, we still need to be cautious and careful to see that the recurrence of COVID doesn't take place. So we are still going in a cautious way. Without taking much time, I would like to present to you the highlights of Q2 and H1 FY22 and then open the floor for question answers. I think the investors presentation has already been uploaded on our website as well as the stock exchanges. I guess you have had a chance to have a look at it. I will go into the details of the performance later. I am happy to inform that your company has entered into solar power segment with securing an order of 500 megawatt solar power plant costing approximately rupees 2,579 crores. This was obtained through an e-reverse auction with the viability gap funding. This takes the order book value of IRCON to 34,900 crores as of September 30th, 2021. During this first 2 quarters, we have completed 100 kilometers of track linking on our important DFCC project of Vetarna Sachin, out of the total 372 kilometers. We have also emerged L1 bidders in one project of signaling in Sri Lanka, and which is about costing about $15.47 million. And in the domestic market, we have emerged as L1 bidders in 2 high-speed rail projects. The total value of these 2 projects is 8,571 crore, which includes a project of 3,429 crore, which is awarded to a joint venture of IRCON with another partner. We have also been appointed as independent engineer for operation, management and development of Guwahati International Airport project for rupees 11.74 crore. So now, as on 30th September, 72% of our orders are on nomination and 28% on competitive bidding. The domestic order book now stands at 96% of the total and the foreign projects is 4%. So the highlights of Q2 FY22 standalone. Our total income stands at rupees 1,503 crore as against rupees 1,015 crore in Q2 FY21. The revenue from operations stood at rupees 1,421 crore as against 968 crore in Q2 FY21. The core EBITDA reported was at rupees 98 crore as compared to 68 crore in Q2 FY21. Profit before tax stands at rupees 173 crore as against rupees 104 crore in Q2 FY21. And profit after tax reported is rupees 133 crore as against rupees 76 crore in Q2 FY21. The earning per share of the company stands at 1.41 per equity share of face value of rupees 2 per share. The Board of Directors of IRCON is pleased to declare an interim dividend of rupees 70 paisa per equity share on a face value of rupees 2 per share for the second quarter. The interim dividend is in addition to the 45 paisa dividend that we had given in quarter 1 FY22. Thank you.
We open with the Q&A, sir?
Yes.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on your touchtone telephone. If you wish to withdraw yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Vishal Variwal from IDBI Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, sir. Sir, on this solar project, seeking a clarity that we'll be the asset owner of this project and EPC will be done in-house. Is that right understanding?
Yes, we will be both the asset owner and we will do EPC in-house. We have a joint venture with another company for this project, which has an expertise in setting up such solar projects. And we also plan to operate it. We plan to sign the power purchase agreements and operate it also after the commissioning of the project. We also have an option to exit from the project, offloading our equity to our partner at a pre-agreed, rate of return, which is around 14%.
Okay. So, in this, the JV partner, what is our share in this and what is the JV partner share?
IRCON share is 76% and 24% is our partner share.
Okay. And what will be the funding structure of this asset?
We hope to close the funding with about an 80-20, debt equity, which is what has been achieved by our partner for some other projects. For us, it's a new project, so we hope that we'll be able to get that funding easily, because this is a very attractive project, and it will not be difficult to set it up and to sign the PPAs. Once we sign the PPAs, our offloading is assured. So I think we will not find any difficulty in arranging the finances.
Okay. So in this, is there any timeline for this offloading of our stake at, I think, the rate of return you mentioned 14%?
This will be the equity IRR that we expect. We will get out only at that rate or whatever is the market rate available at that time. So we will go for, some kind of a market discovery of the price. If it's higher than 14%, we get that. Otherwise, we get 14% from our partner. He is assured to buy it back from us. So this is the mechanism.
Okay. And second is.
You also asked that what is the time period. So this project has to be set up in 3 years' time, 36 months.
Okay. And this the 14% you're saying that will happen from the day one of investment plus a COD plus some period of performance, then only this will conclude?
Yes. It will happen from the day the investment goes from our side.
Okay. And second is on balance sheet. What is the amount of own cash that we have in the balance sheet?
Our own cash in the balance sheet is 590 crores. So our total cash, if you see, is around 3,899 crore. Out of that, 590 crore is our own funds. Okay.
And in balance sheet, I could notice there has been a reduction in non-current asset from 1385 crore to around 762 odd crores. So can you clarify? The reason I'm asking, because own cash, there has been not a major change vis-a-vis what we have reported earlier. So what exactly is the reason of the reduction in the non-current asset?
I have it on. Okay, so I think this is basically because of the return of the loan of Indian Railway Finance Corporation, which is actually a pass-through entity in our books. It is not a loan taken by IRCON. This was a loan, taken by us for the Bandra plot, and this is a pass-through entity. The repayment obligation is of the Indian Railways. So they are repaying that loan, and so that's why you can see this reduction.
Okay. No, but I think in the liability side, there is not a sharp reduction of any line item that I could see. That was the reason I was asking.
Oh, अच्छा.
IBK, JB.
No, so you have taken money. Money have taken that. So I think the second thing is that we are actually now we had given some money to our SPV's road assets, and now we are replacing the funds given by us with loans taken from the banks. So I think from one of the SPVs of IRCON Vadodara Kim Expressway, we have taken back some loan and we have replaced it with it's 589 crores. It has been replaced with a bank loan.
Okay. But then, sir, to that extent, our own cash should have increased. Is that right understanding?
It has increased.
I think it has increased. Maybe our finance officer can.
We have given dividend also out of that, and we have invested also. You can see that it has increased. If you compare with the previous quarter, it has increased.
Okay, sir. Okay. And last thing from my side is on execution target. So I think first half has been, in terms of execution, the momentum has been there with us. So what exactly that we are, internally targeting to close this year at in terms of revenue and margins, that if you can give some clarity. That's it.
I think our third and fourth quarters are the best normally for any construction company, any infrastructure company. And we are also hoping, because all our projects are, the resources are fully mobilized and we have no issues on any of the projects where we are working. So we hope to close the year with a total revenue of more than 6,000 crores at least, and a profit of maybe around profit after tax of around 480 crores odd, right? That is what is our projection. We should be able to exceed that.
Okay, sure, sir. That's it from my side. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jainam Shah from Equirus Securities. Please go ahead.
Yes, please.
Good afternoon, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, good afternoon. Yes, you are audible, please.
Yeah. Sir, just follow-up question from the last question about the revenue guidance. So we were given understanding in the fourth quarter con call that we will be touching around 70 billion for this FY22 and around 100 billion for the FY23. So wherein now currently we are seeing that around 6,000 plus crores of revenue for FY22. So how we are maintaining the FY23 guidance, and considering that almost 1.5 months for the 3Q has already been passed, so the run rate of 2Q has been maintained for 3Q, or it has increased, or any color on that?
The guidance, I think I would still like to maintain the guidance, although we hope to really surpass that, the guidance that I am giving of 6,000 plus crores. We will definitely surpass that. And next year's guidance also would remain the same, because still some of the major projects would be in the final stages. So we would be, next year also our revenue guidance should be better. And now that we are able to secure some more projects from high speed and all. So maybe the future guidance also would remain.
Okay. So this high speed rail corporation of around 8,000 crore order book we have received. So when we expect to start the execution on the same, like in 1 year or something like that?
Are you talking of the high speed?
Yeah, high speed.
High speed projects. We have 2 projects. One is going to, we are going to start getting the revenues from the next financial year itself. That is a 4-year project, and we have a track project which is yet to be awarded. So there also the project is 4.5 years, but the value is 5,100 crores. So our 1,000 crore revenue we expect coming from the second year onwards, because our procurement for the project would start, and many of these components are to come from Japan. So we will be, so I expect this from second year onwards. Now, first year would be preparatory year, where we are going to mobilize, we are going to get our people trained for the track project. The timelines are such that after 1.5 years, in fact, we will get the first viaduct for laying the track. So second year onwards, our revenues will start, and maybe around 1,000 crores each year should come.
Okay. Got it. Now, sir, coming to the margin point, like we are having the EBITDA, core EBITDA margin of around 6.7 and 6.9% for this 1Q and 2Q. Forward, we are given understanding about the overall EBITDA margin, including other income of double digit. So what is the exact core EBITDA margin we'll be maintaining for this balance of year and for over next 2 to 3 years?
If you see, our core EBITDA margin was about 100 basis points higher this quarter, but because we made a provision for one closed project, where we suffered some adverse judgment from one of our closed projects. So we made a provision of 15 crores, which comes to roughly about 1%. So our margin should have been better this year, but this is how I think this is the range in which we hope to close the year. In the same 7 to 8% is what the core EBITDA margin we will close the year.
Okay. And so coming to the road asset portfolio, so you said that we have taken back the loan that has been given to Vadodara Kim project. So currently, what amount of investment we have given in this all these road projects, and what more amount to be invested over next 2 years, in particularly road assets only?
Just give me a second. See, the total equity that we have committed on road projects is 607 crore, out of which 554 crore is already invested. So the remaining will be invested in the latest project that we have is Gurgaon Rewari. In all others, whatever was the equity requirements, we have already invested. And out of the loan of 1,511 crores, which we have committed, 1,000 crores is already paid, and the balance will be paid in due course now.
This loan amount of 1,500 crore to SPVs, IRCON has committed.
Yes, to our wholly owned subsidiaries. These are all road assets. So this is a requirement of the National Highway Authority to create an SPV, and it has to be funded through a mix of debt and equity. So that is what we have done. So we have 6 road projects, out of which 3 are already completed. We are earning tolling on 2 projects, on 3 projects, and 2 projects of hybrid annuity we are expecting to commission this year. So our annuity payments will start within this year itself. Okay. And another one, the last one, the 6th one, it has been awarded last year only. We are yet to have the commissioning date, and this also we hope to commission on time. Our record is to commission all road projects on time. So our tolling has started on time, and now on the hybrid annuity projects also, our annuity payments are going to come on time.
Okay, got it, sir. But the way we have taken back the loan from the Vadodara Kim project by taking the external debt into the subsidiary, so are we not planning to take back this around 1,000 crore or 1,500 crore back by taking the loan at SPV level from the banks or financial institutions?
Yes, we are. We have planned to do that. In fact, one IRCON Shivpuri Guna already we have a sanctioned loan from one of the banks. We have also taken approval from the National Highway Authority of India. So we'll be doing that, I think, maybe within this quarter or next quarter. We don't need the money right now, so we are just delaying it a bit, but we are hoping to get 1 or 2 maybe more highway projects, and after that we'll be taking this money and then taking out our cash.
Okay, so sir, as on date, there is no much requirement, around 50 crore requirement is there to be put into these projects, whereas the inflow could be at around 1,000 crore rupees.
That's right.
Okay, thank you so much. That's it from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anuj Jain from Globe Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Congratulations on the good set of numbers. So, I just want to know, sir, can you please give some color on the Bandra land? I mean, what kind of approvals we have got, and what kind of development we are eyeing for?
In which project?
Bandra land that we have.
Bandra, yes. Bandra, actually, we have had in principle approvals coming from MMRDA and the Maharashtra, the Greater Mumbai Corporation. We have in principle approval from them, And but then we have to process and sign a tripartite MOU between Railways, MMRDA, and IRCON. So that also draft we have submitted. It is under consideration by both the other parties.
Okay. So what kind of revenues we are looking at? I mean, whenever it goes through?
See, right now, nothing can be said because the main issue with the development of that project was the entry and exit, which has to be permitted by MMRDA. So they have, in principle, given the approval. So once that happens, only then we'll be able to realize the true potential. Initially, we thought we would be getting about 3,200 crores of revenue from the lease, long-term lease or sale of the plot. But that depends on whether we are able to get good entry and exit points, and that remains the key element which is yet to be decided. But principally, MMRDA has agreed. Now, after that, there is a sharing of revenue also between the government of Maharashtra and Railways. So that's why the tripartite MOU is to be signed, and that is under consideration. We have submitted the terms and conditions of the MOU to both, and they are looking into it.
What is the market value of that land approximately, sir?
Approximately, as I said, when it was given to us, it was expected to be about 3,200 crores.
Okay. And one more thing, sir. I mean, as we have read in the news.
It also depends on. See, there are issues of FAR also. So MMRDA has also, indicated that they can permit a higher FAR also, provided we are able to share bigger revenue with them. So those issues are also there. So that also depends on what is the final approval that we get, and based on that, we will be able to realize the potential of the plot.
Okay. And sir, just few months back, we have read that government is looking to monetize the railways, assets of the railways. So what kind of benefit that IRCON will get from those asset monetization?
See, earlier the assets we have are mainly the road assets, that can be monetized. So we have 3 roads, where we are collecting tolls. They can be monetized. There are 2 roads which are on hybrid annuity. They can be monetized. So earlier, in fact, we had also planned to monetize these assets on our own, and that is why we were taking out, our own investment into these projects and replacing it with a bank loan. So that is what I think we are waiting for some clarity from DIPAM on this, because they have said that we have to wait for guidance from them whether these assets will be taken over. Will be monetized by them, and then after monetizing, what kind of out of these assets, what kind of revenue will be taken by them, or it will remain with the company. That is yet to be seen. We have not received any broad, and we have only received some broad indications. So it could be that the assets are monetized, taken over by DIPAM, and then monetized. And then whether that money, part of that is given to us or taken by the government, that is yet to be seen.
What you have said is for the road assets. I mean, I'm talking about specific railway assets. I mean, do we have some railway assets?
No, as of now, we don't have any railway asset which can be monetized. See, the projects that we have, they are all EPC contracts from the railways.
Right.
So once we finish those projects, we just hand over to the client. They are all owned by the railways. So railways or dedicated freight corridor, all the high-speed railway corporation, or we are working for the National Capital Region Transport Corporation, NCR. All these projects are on EPC, where we are just going to execute the project and hand it over to them. So these assets, if they are to be monetized, it will be done by those authorities, not by us.
And it will not impact IRCON in any manner because we are not anyway related.
No. In fact, we are not into asset creation. We went into the road assets because we also got the opportunity to do the EPC contracts and earn some EPC margins on that.
Got it, sir. Got it. Thank you, sir. That's it from my side. Wish you all the very best, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Venkatesh from Logic Tree. Please go ahead.
Sir, good afternoon. Two questions. One is actually was asked by another participant, but just a little more clarity. In the previous guidance, we were looking for a 7,000 crore top line this year and 10,000 crore. And if you see the recent quarter, we are well on track to that. So is it safe to assume that on a stretch it could be 7,000 but above 6,000? And are we on track to also keep up with the goal of 10,000 crores next year?
Yes, we are. We are on that goal, but there is a slight setback on that in the sense that the Ministry of Railways has decided that they will not give any more works to us on limited competitive bidding, so we have to actually get now contracts on competitive bidding with private contractors, which we have already done. In two high-speed railway projects, we have already won those projects on bidding. So that all now depends, because earlier there was a inflow of projects from the Ministry of Railways also. So now it depends on this, and basically because of COVID, the last 2 years we have not been able to secure any major project abroad. So that is one again which we had factored in for that guidance of 10,000 crores. We are still hoping to get something within this year. So if we are able to get, say, one or two good projects in foreign countries, then I think we can still maintain that guidance. But if we are not able to do, because now it is a slightly uncertain thing. Earlier, the Ministry of Railways used to give us some projects on, or they held a limited bidding amongst the PSUs where we were very competitive as compared to any other PSU. But now that we have to go for an open bidding with private contractors, which in any case we do. So our 30% order book now is that only. But now that is a slightly uncertain thing. So how much we are able to secure will determine, that 10,000 crore guidance.
Okay. So of the existing order books, if there is no new major order flows, I'm just assuming a scenario, the current order book, can this be executed over the next 24 months?
No. See, our order book is, at the start of the year, was 34,000 crores.
Right.
And we would be executing, say, 6,000 crores of orders out of this. So, and what we expect to get back within this year from where we have already become L1 or where we have already been awarded contracts is about 10,000 crores.
Right.
So that means we will be adding 4,000 crores to our order book of 34, which is 38,000. But the revenue guidance, if you see 6,000, 7,000 crore range, it will mean that this order book will get executed in next 4 to 5 years.
Got it, sir. Got it. But is it safe to assume that FY22 we will finish with a top line anywhere between 6,000 to 7,000?
That's right. We should be able to definitely reach that figure.
Okay, sir. That's great. And the second question is, with respect to the monetization, the Vadodara, do you expect more road assets, the same thing to happen in the other projects as well, where you would you will withdraw from the JV and arrange for bank loans?
No. See, in all other JVs, other than the road assets, which are our wholly owned subsidiaries, except for one, Icon Soma, which was taken long back. What we have done is we have formed JVs with the coal companies. And with the coal companies, the project sizes are big. So there we have not gone for any loan from our side. And so we have already arranged for loans for those projects. So we have moved ahead on those projects only after achieving the financial closure. So in those assets, we don't need to withdraw anything. We have not put in any of our money except for the equity.
Right, sir. Right. Got it, sir. So, and in terms of profit margin, net profit margins, this quarter we did about 8.82%. Is that something that we can assume for the future? 8.8 to 9%?
Next 2 quarters, yes. I can confirm next 2 quarters that we should be able to achieve. After that, we'll have to again see next year how it pans out.
Okay, sir. Last one, sir, which is in terms of the monetization of this one, we have some land or a commercial complex somewhere in Noida or something, and then we have a little land in BKC as well. When do you see this happening, sir, the monetization? Next year or any time frame for that?
Yes, see, BKC land is owned by the railways. We were only asked to monetize it for the railways, right? So that is how it is with us. And so that will happen, because a lot of complications with that, because the state government is involved, the railways is involved, the central government is involved. So that is being done, and I think I said something some time back. That is the status I just told you. The Noida asset, our Gurgaon asset, all these are owned by IRCON. So this is where we have invested, we have put in our capital. So
right.
Noida, in fact, we had already awarded the lease to one of the mall owners, and we were expected to start getting revenues this year. But because of COVID, most of those people have backed out. Again, we have gone for open bidding for this, and within this year we hope to receive some offers. One of the buildings is also going to be put on rent, shortly with the GST Council, I think, in Noida. So we are working on that. I think the market is improving, so we hope to get somebody who can take it on lease and start earning revenue from there also.
Got it, sir. And this Indian Railways land at BKC, if it gets monetized, what will we get, sir, as a result?
We are going to get a fee out of that. That is not owned by us.
Right, sir. Got it. Understood. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Priyanka from Naredi Investment. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity, sir. So my question is regarding any steps that you might have taken to speed up the execution process, or can you consider constituting a dedicated team for monitoring of the same under the senior management's leadership? Your views on this would be helpful.
No, see, as a project company, we already have a good mechanism in place for monitoring of the projects, and we do it regularly. And recently we have, I think last month only, we have gone live on one of the, we have implemented SAP S4 HANA on our, in the company. So that would out of that, the finance module and the HR module is already functional now, and we will go into the project module and other things which will also, start working shortly. So we hope to increase our efficiencies, I think, after that, because that is going to bring a big change in the way we monitor our projects.
Okay. And secondly, sir, can you give the percentage of railway orders that are on nomination basis, and where do you see this percentage going forward?
See, as I already told you, about 70% of our projects right now are on nomination. 30% are now on competitive bidding. And I've already told you that we have become L1 bidders in some projects in high speed. So that will whatever orders we have got this year or likely to get now, which is about 10,000 crores worth of orders, that will all come in the competitive bidding, because Railways is not going to give any more projects on nomination. So there we don't see any growth happening. Our share of the projects won on competitive bidding is going to grow moving forward.
Okay. That's it from my side, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shreyansh from Equirus Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Sir, just one suggestion, if it's possible to share at least the project details of 10 projects, top 10 projects which have come under execution, so that, it would be easier for us to understand which projects are, contributing and at least arriving at that 6,000 or 7,000 crore number.
I can just tell you the list of projects. I can tell you the top performing projects up to the H1 FY22. So we have about 730 crores coming from our J&K project, 307 crore coming from DFCCIL project. From our Sevok-Rangpur railway line, we have about 290 crores. Katni-Singrauli doubling, we have 160 crores. Vadodara-Kim Expressway, we have 135 crores. Katni-Singrauli, grade separator, we have 120 crores. And Akhora-Agartala 90. And so these are our major projects which have contributed to the revenue in the first half. And these are the projects which are likely to contribute, I think, in the second half as well. So we are expecting major contributions coming from J&K project, Sevok-Rangpur, DFCCIL, Vadodara-Kim, and Chhattisgarh projects. So I think that is where I think major contributions are going to come.
Sure, sure. And sir, at the same time, is it possible for us to get a mail to, what is the outstanding order book in these projects? That would be really helpful.
Outstanding order book that I have just mentioned, 34,900 crore, is based on the balance value of the work. It is
No, exactly. So, sir, I just wanted balance order book from the projects which you just discussed. So what is left in Katni? What is in DFCC?
Okay, I think you can. I will ask my CFO. You can mail it to them and ask them, and they will provide you the details.
Done, sir. Sure. So, sir, my second question is pertaining to the ISRDC. Now that, the ministry has taken a call on, winding up the operations. So what is the status out there?
The Indian Railway Station Development Corporation has been wound up. That will not be there. So all their projects will be handed over to the railways. So the zonal railways will be executing these projects. See, what had happened was that the IRSDC was set up basically to develop the railway stations by commercially exploiting the land that was available nearby the stations or within the station premises nearby. Okay. Now, only one station which has recently been inaugurated, I think yesterday only, Habibganj. That is the one which could get, there only the land could get monetized, and that money was used to rebuild the station. After that, the response of the developers has not been very good. And so the IRSDC was also forced to, do most of the projects like Gandhinagar or Surat, they were doing on EPC. So the railways thought that probably, it's better that the zonal railways themselves do the project rather than giving it to, if it is to be done on EPC, then zonal railways themselves are capable. IRSDC was expected to basically monetize the land and then use that money to develop the station. So now railways will be doing it directly, and we can participate in those tenders. So we will participate in those tenders. We are doing some station developments. One is the Safdarjung station in New Delhi we are doing. There are two stations, one in Shalimar and Santragachi in Kolkata, which we are also doing. So we have the experience, and we will try to take some pie out of, I think they are going to go in a big way. Probably 10,000 crores is the money that they are going to invest in development of the projects. And zonal railways will be going for it, and we will participate there.
Sure. And sir, what happens to our investments which we made in this arm?
Our investment, see, I think if you remember, our equity investment initially was around 51%, which we had already brought down to 26%.
Right.
Okay, and the rights had taken a part of that.
Correct.
So basically, after the winding down of the company and we are in the process of appointing a valuator, and so there are assets, there are a lot of intangible assets which the company has generated. So the exact position will be known after all the valuation is completed. So we will get our equity back, maybe with some profit, or that we do not know. That will come to know only after the entire exercise is over.
But the MOU, or what we were given to understand, that there were certain percentage of IRRs which were confirmed or were likely to be there, around 18 or 19%. So will this not be the case now?
No, this is for 18 to 19% in which project you are talking about?
For the ISRDC investments, whatever investments we make, There were certain returns which were guaranteed to us. That's what we were given to understand.
No, in IRSDC there were no returns guaranteed to us. We were
Okay.
expecting when we went for that company. Initially, it was a subsidiary of IRCON.
Okay.
Initially, the railways asked us to set up a subsidiary because they thought IRCON is best placed to do that. So we created that subsidiary, and when that investment was done, we were expecting to get a good return. But because the market did not, the real estate market went down. So basically, if we had been able to exploit the land to get more developers, probably that would have given an income to IRSDC, and that would have probably fetched the kind of return that we were expecting. But I think now that is not there, and in any case, it is being wound up. So now we are only looking at getting back our whatever is the equity and whatever return is possible. That will be known after the entire exercise is complete.
Got it. So my next question is pertaining to the high-speed projects. So sir, just wanted to understand the rationale behind going for a JV, and what would be our scope of work for this project?
See, we have gone for a JV in one of the two packages. We have been awarded one package which is 3,400 crores. This is an elevated viaduct of 18 kilometers in Ahmedabad area. Okay. So our company did not have experience. This viaduct is to be built as a segmental construction for which we did not have experience. So our purpose was to get that experience because we wanted to use that for getting more projects. But because this project is very close proximity to the railways, it involves a lot of railway crossings, crossing the station, building of the station building at Ahmedabad and all. So our partner basically approached us. In fact, it is not our qualification on the basis of which we have got. It is our partner's qualification.
Okay.
So we are providing the technical expertise to them. We will be sharing the cost for the plant and machinery and for the resources. And that way we will be there. But as a contractor, because we didn't have the experience, so he will be executing a large part of the work.
Okay. So in terms of revenue potential, so how much can we earn from this 3,800?
Could be, our share is about 50%, and we expect about 5%, 5 to 6% return on this.
Okay. And for the other project which is of 5,000 odd crores,
that is entirely of IRCON, and we have taken it on competitive bidding, and again there also the margins are like that only, because this was a very specialized kind of work and we wanted to enter into this. So this particular first package we have bid on a very competitive price, but there are second and third packages which are going to come. So once they come, or once more such high speed projects come, then we want to basically develop that kind of an expertise. If we don't do that, we'll be simply out of the market. So this is more of a strategic work for us, and that's why we've taken it on around 5% margins.
So when you are saying 5%, you are talking about 5% PAT margins, or?
Yes, 5% PAT margin.
Got it, sir. Sure. Sir, and now coming to, there are media reports of RVNL merging with IRCON. So what's your take on that?
See, as of now, I have only read it in the media. You said media reports. I have also seen it in the media only. There is no official communication regarding any such proposal. The only thing I can say is, yes, the government in its entirety, there is a stated objective of the government. I think it has been stated in the parliament that they want to reduce the number of PSUs. So that may be the cause of this speculation that, we are merging the two entities. But if it happens, it is going to be a win-win for both of us, because both of us have a complementary kind of relationship, and we can really build synergies and which will help both of us. So I think that is what I can say. But right now there is no formal proposal. Nothing is there, from anywhere. We have not seen anything from the ministry.
Got it. Sir, and last two questions from my side. One, in terms of capex, how much have we done till date, and what are the plans for, the second half and next year?
Sorry, can you just repeat your question?
the CapEx we've done in the first half, what is the likelihood of, in CapEx in second half for FY 20?
We don't have, we are not expected to have a lot of CapEx for, we have not been given targets for that. The target for the year is around 100 crores, which we have already done.
Okay.
Our CapEx is limited to the procurement of, plant and machinery and some such things. So that for our project. So that is 100 crores, which we have already achieved.
And nothing in solar, which that will we have to invest?
Yes, solar, when we do, yes, that will come in. But, solar, it will come in the form of equity, not as a capital investment.
Okay. And so what would be the quantum out there in terms of equity?
The project cost is 2,580 crores, and we expect to fund it with an 80-20 debt equity ratio. And we have a 76% share in that in a JV there. So 76% of this 20% is around 15% is what we... 392 crores is what we are expected to put in.
Got it. Friend, last question pertaining to our Noida land. So just wanted to understand what is the potential developable area out there and what are the investments which we made in this project?
See, these were basically done few years back, when the government of India also wanted us to put in our capital to good use and some money into and when the real estate was really doing well. So at that time we had purchased these plots in Noida, and all these buildings are complete. One is for our own purpose. The other three are going to be leased out. One is a mall where we had already appointed a mall operator, but then because of COVID, ultimately he backed out. One building is we are going to give it on a long-term lease. Another one we are planning to put a data center along with RailTel. So we have plans to do that right now because the real estate market has not been good. So otherwise the demand for it would have been really, really very good and we would have got good returns on it. But I think we hope to, see some better situation probably towards the end of this year or next year.
Correct. So would you like to put any number, the three buildings which we are planning to lease out, around 1 million square feet, 0.5 million square feet?
I don't have the details right now. But I think the total investment in these projects would be about 400 crores. 518 crores in Noida, 418 crores in Noida, and 100 crores in Gurgaon.
Okay.
So I'm really not sure because we are still, in the process of leasing them out. We have invited bids, and earlier we could not get good enough bids. So unless they come up, I cannot really tell, how much revenue we're going to earn out of that.
Got it. Thank you very much, sir, and all the best. That's it from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rishikesh Oza from Robo Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Sir, firstly wanted to clarify on the FY23 targeted revenue that I said of 10,000 crores. So is it possible or only going ahead you will be able to give us a correct figure?
No, it was definitely possible when we put it out because we were continuing to get orders from the railways both on nomination or limited competitive bidding. Now that the railways has decided to give it only on competitive bidding with private players, those projections we maybe need to be revised. We have to see how competitive we are. So within this year, I think we have done well. We have taken we will be taking orders worth about 10,000 crores, and maybe we have also become L1 in one Sri Lanka project, and maybe we also target to get one project in either in Myanmar or Bangladesh. So that it depends on how we really are able to work out this competitive bidding scenario. So maybe, by next year, first half, I think we should be able to give a better projection. Yes, it is still achievable. 10,000 crores is still achievable. We may be able to do that next year.
Okay. So given, assuming if we are able to achieve 10,000 crores of revenues in FY23, so would it be fair to say that we can do around 900 crores of PAT?
The margins are not going to improve dramatically because, see, once we are going for competitive bidding only, the margins right now, if you see the kind of bids which are coming for NHAI or for railways, you have 20 bidders, you have 30 bidders, you have 40 bidders in every tender. So it's not possible to take contracts on good margins. That's why my expectation is our margins are going to be similar. Even if we are able to maintain the margins that we have been doing, this year or earlier years, I think that will be good enough.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vishal Wariwala from IDBI Capital. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the opportunity again. Sir, in our quarterly performance in the segmental international, revenue line item and the international side, the PBT shows there is a loss. Can you clarify the reason for the same? Because the revenue has seen an increase on quarter-on-quarter basis.
Although on our current projects there is no loss, as I told you, our core EBITDA margin is affected by around 1%, and that is because of this 15 crore provision that we have made on our Malaysia project, which is closed long back. But there were some arbitrations going on, and in one of the arbitration cases, we had an adverse judgment against us. So we have provisioned 15 crores in that. That is why it is showing a loss.
Okay, so that's more like a one-off and may not continue.
No.
And second, I think you just mentioned around 400 crore kind of equity deployment will be there for the solar asset, 500 megawatt.
Yeah.
So that phasing will, fair to say, it will happen over the next 2 odd years in terms of our investment in standalone?
Next 3 years is when we have to implement. See, 1 year we have for the financial closure, and after that 3 years for implementation. So it will happen, I think, over the next 3 years.
Okay. And any other equity investment that we have that is pending in the subsidiaries or joint venture that we have? Anything that we should model?
We have already planned for equity investments in our joint venture companies with coal for coal connectivity projects. So
Okay.
There, we have some investments pending. We have investments of 117 crore pending for I think 2 of our subsidiaries of coal. Not subsidiaries, the joint venture companies with coal companies.
Okay, and so that will happen over the next 2 odd years?
Yeah. No, it will happen, I think, within a year or so.
Okay. And last thing is, on the solar project, can you name the JV partner?
It's Ayana. Ayana is a subsidiary of India Infrastructure Finance Limited, IIFL.
Okay. And so, the reason of asking this is of entering into this structure because.
Basically, what happened was it started with signing of an MOU with IIFL, where we thought we will look at investment in assets, road or solar, right? And because Ayana is a company which has a 51% shareholding of this IIFL, and I think 20-30% is from a British, capital, CTC, some other investor. So they had already, have experience of setting up 2 or 3 solar plants. So they approached us, and we thought, yes, because we didn't have any experience on our own, maybe we could not have just gone and got this work. But this, when we saw that there was a competitive bidding being done amongst the PSUs, so only the power PSUs were participating, NTPC, BHEL, Singareni, many, so only power companies were participating. So we saw an opportunity, and because they had the expertise, so we went with them. And that is how we were able to win this 500 megawatts, because we are the only, I think, non-power player who is there.
Okay. And this, the IRR that is committed, I mean, INA has to make sure that, they have to shell out that much to you. It
Yes.
won't depend on, like, at what time, what the market scenario will be.
No, see, this particular tender has been, it's a government aided kind of a tender, where the government has also provided us with some kind of limitations, like we have to buy it from local Indian manufacturers. The power purchase agreement has to be entered at maximum of ₹2.45, and there is a VGF provided by the government, which was the variable that we quoted. So based on that, our financial modeling suggests that in next 1 year we have to go for the PPAs. And we have approached the railways and many other. We have to sell the power to government organizations, and there are more than 500 megawatt is nothing. The demand is much more. So we'll be able to sign the PPAs. Once we sign the PPAs, around 245, 240 even. Our return on equity is almost guaranteed, right? So we'll be able to get that. In fact, we are expecting to get more. So the condition is that if the market is able to give us a better return on equity after the completion of the project, INA will pay that. I mean, or otherwise they will, let the other one buy it. So 14% is guaranteed for us.
Okay. And that will only happen after the consummation. So in the initial 2-3 years, it will be investments, and then the return will be there.
There is also some portion of the EPC contract that we will be doing, like setting up of the, the power station, the setting up of the transmission line and some other assets, electrical assets. So we'll also be doing part of the EPC contract, and the other will be basically only cost, it will be cost neutral. So it will be like buying the solar panels and all. There will be no profit put in by any of us. But there is an EPC part of the contract where we will do the work and we will also earn some revenue from there.
Okay. Sure, sir. I got it. Thanks for the detailed explanation, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vipul Shah from Sumangal Investment. Please go ahead. Mr. Vipul Shah, your line is in talk mode. Kindly go ahead with your question, please. As there is no response from the current participant, we move to the next question from the line of Parimal Mithani from Credential Investment. Please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir, and thanks for the opportunity, and congratulations for good numbers, sir.
Thank you.
So I just wanted, most of the questions have been answered. I just want clarity on two things, sir. One, in terms of the dividend policy, sir, are we going to go with quarterly dividend payouts now, sir? Is it safe to assume that, sir?
Yes, because we have been instructed by DIPAM. It's not mandatory, but they have said that they have said that it is preferable that we go for that. So as of now, we are planning to give a dividend quarterly, I think, unless there is a reason not to do it.
Okay, sir. And sir, secondly, in terms of your monetization of asset, if I'm clear, sir, you have 3 roadways which are supposed to monetize from, and you're supposed to get funds from the National Irrigation Pipeline for this thing. But I didn't get clarity on that. Are we waiting? Are the funds going to get to us, or what's the status there? If you can just help us.
So I think I told you earlier also that we were planning to monetize them ourselves. But now we are waiting for a clarification whether we have to do it on our own, or we have to offer it to DIPAM and they will do the monetization. So once that comes, we will move ahead on that.
And yes, sir, one question that we have a concern, since this competition among PSUs is more or less removed now. Yeah. So how do you see, is there any clarity in terms of how do you compete in the market now? Because nomination will no longer be there.
See, for us, for other PSUs, it might be an issue. For Ircon has been competing, we have already we have 30% of our order book, which is on competitive bidding. So, we don't see an issue there. In fact, we have already secured, as I said, we have become lowest bidders in projects in high-speed railway. So we will be doing more aggressive bidding in NHAI, in other railways, because railway is now going to do that. So in railways, amongst all the PSUs, I think we are the best place to compete and get the work, right? So I don't see any challenges there. As I said, the challenge would be on margins, because with the nomination projects, some margins were assured. But now we will not have any assured margins. We'll have to see, bid out, and then, do it efficiently to earn our margins. So that is where the difference will come. We hope that we'll be able to get reasonable number of projects, both in the domestic as well as international market.
Okay, so we have as per the railway plan, we have 12 crore capex, which 12 trillion crore capex which the rail ministry has planned, and you say you have the bench strength or expertise compared to all the rail PSUs. So how do you what makes you so confident about that you'll be able to compete among the rest of other PSUs?
See, nobody secures any projects on bidding. We are the only one. You name any PSU, nobody. Neither RVNL. RVNL has just started. And you see RITES, but RITES is in a consultancy field, more of a consultancy field. So in execution again, they are not there. And if you see other PSUs as well, nobody competes in the domestic or international market. So we have been doing that for years now, and we can continue to do that. We hope to secure projects, but again, I would repeat, the margins are going to be under pressure.
So thanks for the clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 at this time. As there are no further questions, I now hand the conference over to the management for their closing comments.
Okay, so I think I'll thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Stevens, and thank you all the others who have participated in the conference. I would like to thank the analyst and investor friends who have taken time out of their busy schedule to listen to us today. As already said in the conference, you can get in touch for any assistance or any information that you need, and we will be happy to provide that to you. Thank you.
Thank you all for being a part of the conference call. If you need any further information or clarification, please mail at gaurav.g@conceptpr.com. Ladies and gentlemen,